I'm so very, very grateful to have been committed to create this space for people. The audience are the people who have let that happen, not me. I write these songs and I really hope above anything else that they will let people feel something. It's going to be a different something for everybody because people's experiences are different. Their past is always going to be different to mine. But hopefully the songs are written in a way that is just general enough that people can relate to it and project their experiences into these songs and find some common ground with me. And that together we explore something and we deal with something and we feel something. And, the gigs have been ever since the beginning, really, but more so kind of as people, I think, learn that it is that space that people can just come and just leave everything else at the door and just come and feel whatever it is they need to feel for that hour. As people learn that that's what these gigs do, it is really wonderful to come and just feel stuff collectively that just allows people to focus a little bit on how they feel. And it's really lovely that that's something that people do at shows.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of the Bleeding Metal podcast. My name is Kiki. I'm your host. My pronouns are she, her. And today I have a very special guest, A.A. Williams. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm very well, thanks, Kiki.
So good to meet you. Thank you so much for your time. How have you been doing? You're doing a lot of press. You just released a music video for your single Poison a few days ago. How have you been?
It's been very busy. I don't think I've had any time off for a long time. Yeah, like you said, there's a lot of press. There's a lot of stuff to do leading up to any release. But this is working with a new label for me. So it's great that they're so proactive and they're so kind of involved in everything. And I love that, but it
Right.
is also a lot of work. So it's a learning curve for me, but a really good one. I'm just a bit tired.
Yeah, I bet. We want to know everything about you. This is the first time for you on the Bleeding Metal podcast. Would you mind telling us your life story? How was your upbringing? Was there a lot of music around you?
God, life story casually.
Yeah, sorry to
Okay,
put you on the
I'll
spot.
try and be as concise as I can. I was born in South London. I lived in London all my life. And when I was very young, my parents thought that a good idea, maybe for a kid, would be to have a creative outlet. So they thought piano lessons would be worth trying, and
Yeah.
there was a teacher near my school. So I began learning and I took to it straight away. I really enjoyed it. I found it very enjoyable, but also I was a very shy kid. So I think I found music to be a bit of a solace and also a way that was easier to communicate sometimes than trying to speak. I was a bit shy, but also, especially when you're getting older and you're getting into being a teenager, it's not always easy to explain how you feel about stuff. And often you don't even know how you feel about stuff. You're trying to figure it all out. So music just felt like a really calm place to just feel whatever, and to kind of put myself into it. And so it always felt like that for me and always had that draw. So I studied it through school. I went to university. I studied classical, was a cellist, and I studied that with my kind of specialty as an undergraduate. And then I did a master's, and then I began a PhD, but I didn't finish it because I just started working and didn't really have the time to dedicate to writing a book, basically, which is essentially what a PhD is. And I just wasn't able to dedicate the time to the research. So I started working as a session cellist, doing orchestral work and performing for other artists and such. And at some point during that time, started playing more for people who were not classical musicians, like more like artists and bands and stuff. And people would ask for me to do a bit of piano on the side or a bit of this and a bit of that, and it was all edging towards performing in a less classical sense. And at no point during any of that had I considered trying to play like a band instrument. I listened to heavy music like my whole life, but I didn't really consider it to be something that I would play. I just thought I enjoyed it to listen to,
Yeah.
And I found a guitar that was wrecked. It was all broken, but I found this instrument, and a good friend of mine was a backline tech, and he took it to pieces in my kitchen, basically. And we put it back together. We bought all the parts. We kind of glued it all together. And I ended up with this kind of guitar that was kind of bits of this and bits of that. And I thought, well, I don't know how to play this. but I should probably learn, why not? Have a go. And so I started to write songs, which I'd never done before. I started to write songs as a way of learning the instrument, really, because I didn't really want to just learn a bunch of AC/DC riffs or whatever. I wanted to try and do something with it, not just replicate other people's cool stuff.
Yeah.
So I used it as an opportunity just to kind of try something out that I'd not done before. So I, yeah, enjoyed learning the instrument and enjoyed writing songs. And I'd never kind of considered to make my own music before. I was always very comfortable performing other people's music in an ensemble setting, and being that kind of slightly behind the scenes person to help facilitate somebody else's vision was always the thing that I really enjoyed doing. So it was interesting to give focus to how I felt about putting myself into songs for the first time. I'd never tried. And
Yeah.
I'd never tried singing. Singing was like off the table up until that point. I'd never dared. The idea of singing down a microphone in public to people was just not at all okay,
Yeah.
for me. So again, I kind of formed all of this as I was going. I was learning to write, I was learning how to express myself in terms of the text, but also learning to sing and learning to
Mhm.
figure out what felt comfortable. And gradually just found that I enjoyed it more than anything else. And however long down the line, kind of thought, you know what, some of these songs aren't bad. Let me
Mhm.
try and understand if anybody else thinks they're okay, or is it just me?
Okay.
And so, so basically demoed my first EP on
Mhm.
my kitchen table with zero budget
Wow.
and no idea what I was doing. My kitchen table just kind of set up with a tiny little interface and my computer, which stopped working halfway through. So I had to kind of,
Oh
oh my
no.
God, it was very stressful, and sent all of these songs out basically. And that was the beginning of it. And here we are.
Who did you send that demo, the EP, to?
Oh, I sent it to I have to say, basically went through the alphabet. As many record labels and bookers and agents as I could find that I thought would be remotely interested in the music that I was making. So obviously I knew that my music was quite niche and that it was not going to fit into a lot of different spheres.
Mhm.
However, I also thought, well, you're going to do it, you send it out, do it properly. Don't just send it to one person and cross your fingers. And
Mhm.
then if it doesn't work, then what? So I
Yeah.
kind of I kind of sent it to quite a lot of people, to be totally honest. But gratefully got a response from a label that doesn't exist anymore called Holy Raw,
Mhm.
who took the EP on. So I re-recorded it
Mhm.
properly, kind of with a little bit more professionalism, and actually had someone mix it properly and all of that. That was the first EP. And that was the record that gave me the opportunity to do my first show. Basically, Holy Raw, which was the record label. I don't know if they had the stage for the whole weekend or if it was just one day, but they had like a little showcase going at Roadburn Festival. And
Uh-huh.
they invited me to perform at this showcase. It was me, I think, Svalbard Conjurer. I can't remember who else was
Nice.
there. I don't remember who else was there. Oh, maybe Pine. I can't remember. And me. So I said yes. Okay, great. And Roadburn very kindly agreed to premiere the video of my first ever single. It was a song called Control, and they kindly popped it on their website on the day of the release. And,
Mhm.
that was great. And a couple of days later, I got an email from the guy who's now my manager and my booking agent, just asking, hey, I saw this video. Like, do you have anybody booking you? What's going on? Like, if you don't, do you want to have a conversation? If you do, brilliant. If you
Yeah.
don't, do you want to chat? So immediately I emailed the guy going, no, I haven't got anything, but do you want to hear the rest of this EP? Let's maybe talk
First.
about
Yeah.
this. And yeah, you want to maybe know what you're getting into here. So I sent it to him, and, Roadburn was at this point the only thing that I had in my diary. And so we thought, well, it would be quite cool and it would be quite a statement for it to stay like that and for the first show to be this Roadburn show. It was never designed to be the first one. It just so happened to be the first one that got put in the diary.
Mhm.
And because it has such this focus and it's such a hotbed of kind of new, heavier music and experimental stuff, and it's got such a glorious, all-encompassing. There aren't really many boundaries at Roadburn. Do you know what I mean? There's so many amazing
Mhm.
people coming and doing all sorts of wonderful things. I thought it'd be a really beautiful place to try this out in
Yeah.
real life. And just as luck would have it, all of the bookings that I ended up taking on were after Roadburn. So I thought, well, yeah, fuck it, let's make that the first show.
Yeah.
Why not? I mean, I'm going to be nervous wherever I do it, so why not? So yeah, it got this kind of hype around it because there was this thing about it being kind of a brave move,
Mhm.
doing your debut in this place. But like I said, I was going to be nervous wherever it happens. I was very nervous and I was very, very worried about whether anybody would show up or not. And those two things, I'm not so much nervous now, but I still desperately worry every day that no one's going to come to a gig. I just
Mhm.
have this perpetual fear. And I don't know why. We all get nervous about different things. And I
Yes.
remember someone saying to me, don't worry about it. People are queuing to try and get in. Like, it's going to be fine. And I remember kind of not really believing that and thinking, oh, they're just trying to make me feel better about it.
Mhm.
Who's going to come? Nobody knows who I am. I'm nobody in this context. I'm not going to be surprised if I walk out and there's 8 people. It's going to be okay. And so I walked out in a completely packed room. There were people who can get in.
Uh-huh.
And I don't really remember the show, except I remember at some point looking into the crowd and seeing Mono watching and just thinking, fuck, 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 fuck. Not because, oh my God, why am Mono here? But oh my God, Mono watching, fuck, you got to do it right. Like,
Yeah.
these people are so influential and so, one of your favorite bands. Like, you can't screw this up. And that's pretty much one of my only memories of the actual gig itself. It was just
Yeah.
seeing them there and thinking, oh my God, they're here. What?
Yeah.
After the fact, I realized, I think, well, maybe there was something interesting about what I was doing that made people want to come and look. But at the time, I just
Absolutely.
thought, what's going on?
Mhm. Mhm.
But yeah, and then, things developed from there and I got some really cool support offers and I ended up working with Mono. Ended
Did you
up,
ever ask what they thought of that first show?
I, my booking agent read me after the gig. He read me a text that Taka has sent him and it was just emojis. So like, I don't think there were any words. So I remember my booking agent going, fire, fire, clap of hands, fire, big heart, fire, like just reading me. I was
Yeah.
like, I think that's good. I think that's good. So from onwards from there was, yeah, as I say, some really great support opportunities and yeah, kind of various label goings on and stuff, albums going out, and then a pandemic which came and just stopped
Mm.
a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But it gave me an opportunity to work on something for myself, which turned into something else, which is a record called Songs from Isolation.
Mhm.
And that was basically an excuse for me to have something creative to do during the pandemic and during the lockdowns that were happening in the UK, to try and have a creative outlet and something positive to focus on that wasn't just looking at the news and being
Fair.
miserable and stressed.
Yeah.
And it turned into this quite interesting kind of fan dialogue where they would suggest songs for it every week and I'd do these little videos and
Mhm.
it was just a nice thing for everybody to just do that wasn't stressing out about all of the horrible stuff that was going on. And it was a really fun thing to do, but also I think because there was that dialogue, it brought me and my listeners closer a little bit, which was really nice because it was early in my career that that happened.
Mhm.
So my major worry was, well, I've not even, I've barely put an album out. And if I just stop now and just wait
Mhm.
until this thing finishes, whenever that's going to be, we could be waiting forever. But also,
Yeah.
I'm not a big enough artist. I don't have any relevance enough here that people are just magically going to remember who I am without me continuing to do stuff. Because I'm a, tiny little artist here in the grand scheme of all these other people.
Mhm.
And I just need to make sure that I'm still doing something. I can't just stop and wait for it to go away.
Yeah.
And so that was that. And it was kind of born from my manager at the time was like, come on, do Instagram live, Instagram live, live, live. I was like, no way,
Mhm.
because my internet connection is bad, number one.
Mhm.
Number two, I have no control of this. If it goes wrong, if it sounds terrible, I can't do anything about it because I'm trying to do 2 things at once, right? So I said, well, my compromise, I'll do videos, but I want to pre-record them and edit them and make them look right and make them look kind of, fit a bit aesthetically and kind of
Yeah.
go with things because I'd noticed that a lot of people, obviously labels and managers were suddenly trying to encourage their artists to do something with this time and use it and do stuff from home and whatever. The problem was is that a lot of people didn't have much at home to use to do those things. And what happened was suddenly all of these incredible artists who spent years building up this aesthetic and this vibe and this very particular way of presenting themselves were
Mhm.
suddenly doing live videos from their kitchen in their pajamas. And it just
Mm.
killed
The vibe.
all
Yeah.
mystique, all vibe, veil gone, everything just,
Yeah.
mm-mm. And I just thought, I don't want to do that. Even though I haven't really been around long enough to cultivate anything big, I
Yeah.
still want to maintain a particular kind of presence. I don't want to just be splurging everything here because I've not done that up to this point. Why would I do it now? You know? And
Yeah.
so I'm grateful that my compromise, my version of this was kind of acceptable. And yeah, it seemed to work okay. It was a fun thing to do at a not very fun time. And
Hmm.
I mean, to be totally honest, I'd quite like to do another one of those records at some point, maybe without the pandemic bit.
Yeah.
But it was a really enjoyable thing to take other people's songs and try and make them something new because there's a big pressure when you're working on covers. You're very, very, very aware that you are going to potentially kill someone's favorite song. And that's a
Mm,
big pressure because
true.
especially if you're doing well-known songs as well, there's a big potential to fuck it up. And so you're very, very careful to try and do as much as you can not to. It's an interesting challenge musically to make it your own, but retain as much of that individual song as you can, that you're keeping it as authentic as possible. And it
Hmm.
was fun.
That's a very important word that you just mentioned, the authenticity. I think that
Yeah.
there is something appealing as well to seeing our favorite artists whom we put on pedestals dancing in their pajamas in their kitchens.
I think
It
there
kind of makes
is,
them human again,
yeah, well,
relatable.
it is, but I mean, if your artist wants to be human and relatable and the kind of person you're going to bump into down the pub, great.
Hmm.
That's perfect. Do the videos in your kitchen in pajamas. Put up pictures of your breakfast. Go for it. But when people have a particular way of presenting themselves and a particular aesthetic that they've spent
Hmm.
years creating,
Yeah.
to just rip it away immediately out of a kind of slight panic, you can't go back from that. It's like when an anonymous band goes, you know what? My name's Steve, actually. And then everyone puts them out and pretends that we didn't just see who Steve was. It's like Slipknot. For
Yeah.
years, we're just this really cool, anonymous, weird collection of people. Nobody knew anything about these people. Nobody knew who they were or what their names were or anything. They were just a bunch of numbers and masks. And it was so alluring because of that mystique. It was so,
Hmm.
so cool. And then gradually, 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 we all discover who everybody is. And
Yeah.
we now know everybody's private life and we do all of this other stuff. And you just think, well, hang on. I get that there's an appeal to, I get that there's a weight to being anonymous and to having that privacy and kind of putting that mask on and kind of
Mm,
keeping everything very restrained. I get that that must be tough
yeah.
and hard to do in the long term. But it also
Mhm.
feels from an audience point of view, a little bit of a shame because there was something really cool about that and it's not, you can't get it back. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, and I kind of feel a little bit like that's what happened to some people in lockdown. It's not even lockdown. It's like suddenly everyone wanting to do TikTok, and
Yeah.
suddenly everyone wants to reveal everything. I get that it's a great tool to use to reach people.
Mhm.
However, how you do that and remain authentic to yourself without having to spill stuff that you don't want to spill and also give people something interesting and new that fits with this aesthetic still. It's a really hard balance to find.
I
This
bet.
is why I have not ever succeeded at TikTok, and one day I will try, but I don't really know how, frankly.
Yeah, that's a challenge for sure. I want to go back a little bit to your university
Yep.
years. I have many, many questions, but what exactly were your degrees and what was your PhD going to be about?
Both music degrees. The first one was just to be muzzing classical music, and the
Mhm.
second one was specializing in classical performance with a focus on cello. And there were
Mhm.
various other aspects, but it was performance based. And then the PhD was also going to be performance based, and it was looking at the development of extended technique in solo cello repertoire, early 20th century. But again,
Wow.
that was quite a lot of research and kind of
Yes.
a lot of the stuff that I needed was kind of handwritten letters and archived stuff that was all hidden around Europe, basically.
Yeah.
So to really spend time researching this properly involved learning a bunch of languages because a lot of it was written in German
Mhm.
and a lot of it was written in French. And it also involved, yeah, going and being in these archives and spending months and months and months sat trying to get through a whole bunch of
Yeah.
stuff. And the practical side of things didn't really facilitate that because it kind of coincided with me starting to do kind of tours and stuff like that, and it
Mhm.
just was
Yeah.
not going to go together very well. I think I
Right,
needed
right.
to choose a different topic if I was going to try and tour at the same time.
True. Oh my goodness, that is so interesting. I studied musicology in the
Okay,
south of Germany.
amazing.
So I'm very familiar with the research, and I think I always come back to remembering this slightly traumatic moment when very
Academia is
famous
traumatic. Yeah, you're right.
there was a very famous cellist performing at our university in Heidelberg, and he performed a few very beautiful classical pieces, and then one of these 21st century modern
Yeah.
classical
Hmm.
noise. And I felt this very, very physical reaction of why is he hurting that cello?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, what's amazing is from a cello and well, from string instruments, you can get so many, let's just go with non-traditional sounds out of
Mhm,
it. Like there's so much you can do. And so the research was all about the development of where did this come from? What was the purpose of it? What role did it play in contemporary solo repertoire? You know, most repertoire isn't just extended technique. There's other stuff in there as well. So it was a case
mhm.
of kind of understanding the reason for including it in the language and where it came from and why, basically. And what does it do and where do we go with it beyond starting to add external elements like electronics and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I mean, the possibilities are, of course, endless, and it just gives
Mm,
you more and more tools of expression. And
that's
I've
it.
always been a huge fan of crossovers, which is why for so long my favorite genre was symphonic metal. Put strings onto heavy music, and I'm there, I'm sold,
You know
absolutely.
what? It's a lovely thing to do. And it's, you know what? I really enjoy having the tools to be able to facilitate that in my own music because it's a really expensive thing to do
Mhm,
if you are hiring the musicians, you're hiring someone to do the scoring, you need to find somewhere to record these people. This is not a quick thing to do, and it's not a cheap thing to do. If you want to do it with
mhm.
real people, obviously, yeah, you can do it with MIDI if you want, but is it ever going to be as good?
Right.
Question depends on the role of those strings in that music. Sure, it can be done if it's something a little more subtle or kind of in the background of that mix.
Mhm.
Maybe you'd not know, but I love being able to put that in
Yeah,
just because it's nice to have, you know, you use the tools that you have, right?
yeah.
And so for me, it's nice to add that without it being too much extra hassle. I can just, if I feel like it should go there, it goes there, you know?
Yeah. And also having that by yourself, you being
Yeah,
able to play that and to express
exactly.
through that
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
exactly. I
having
mean,
your emotions in it.
that's exactly it. All the
Yeah.
strings on Forever Blue and on my new record Solstice, there's just me
Mhm.
layered up a bunch of times. You know, there's no one else doing that. And
Yeah.
it's nice just to go, you know what? Oh, hang on a minute, just set up quickly and just, you know, do a bit of this and that and test stuff out and try stuff. And when you're working on your own project, you have the luxury of time and the
Yeah.
luxury to workshop it and test stuff and figure out what works and what doesn't. When
Yeah.
you're working with a team of people whose time you are paying for, it is not as easy.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
it's,
maybe you might
yeah,
settle for a take that's less than your perfect standards or
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. I think people can find it intimidating working with classical players as well sometimes because maybe it's, you know, there is a bit of a language barrier in terms of the way things are talked about.
Mm.
So if you're not kind of versed in that and you've got an orchestra who just talk in like orchestra, you know,
Mm.
to try and get that kind of discussion happening sometimes and actually really achieve what you want
Yeah.
isn't always easy.
Yeah.
And so being able to just do it yourself
Yes.
makes things a lot simpler.
And I feel like you mastered that challenge yourself in your own flesh and bone when you went from classical performer
Yeah.
that in my experience they have a lot of difficulty even sometimes improvising
Oh,
and
I
not
hate
having
improvising.
not having
Oh,
sheet music in
yeah.
front of them is
Oh
already
my
a
God.
challenge.
Yeah. Well, that's it. And I mean, I think because I don't want to generalize, but the majority of non-classical musicians don't have that theoretical
Mhm,
base. They think about music and just it's just thinking about it in a different way. The result is often the same. Awesome people performing awesome things, right?
mhm,
But the framework within which, you know, compute all of this stuff, it just comes from a different place. So
mhm,
you need to find a common language, and classical musicians are often not the best at considering other ways people might kind of think about this stuff. They go, well,
mhm.
this is the way because these are the rules,
Yeah, yeah,
and you're talking to me in a way that doesn't adhere to these immediately obvious
yeah,
framework. It's just taking a bit of time to really try and eke out exactly what somebody
yeah.
wants. It's a hard thing to do sometimes because also sometimes your non-classical player finds it hard to express exactly what they are trying to find and they kind of don't know until they hear it. And that's where you get the problem. It's because
Mhm,
they don't know what they want until they hear it. The other guys don't really know what the guy is trying to achieve. And then you've just got this gap where
mhm.
there could be something great, but nobody quite can get there.
Right, right. And then you even went a step further and learned the instrument of your own voice as well.
Mm,
And even one step further, having the courage to reach out to industry people, not only friends and musician colleagues for feedback, but actual
yeah.
industry people to further your
Mm,
career. I feel that
yeah.
that is so inspiring.
I think you know what, if you firmly believe that there is something good in what you're creating,
Mm.
it doesn't have to be perfect, but if you think that there is something interesting and you really firmly believe that there is something good in what you do, there is no harm in reaching out to have advice or to have somebody tell you no, not today or whatever. Like you never know until you ask. It's as simple as that. Worst case scenario, they'll say no. That's
Yeah,
okay. You know, no one's gonna come burn your house down. They're just gonna say no. It's easy. Like it's
yeah,
fine. It's not a stress. And I think if I had never done, I mean, I would be petrified trying to do that outside of my kind of comfort zone. You know, if
mhm,
I mean, this was already a bit out of my comfort zone, but it's like if I suddenly decided, you know what, I'm going to take up pottery,
mm.
right? I'm really interested in it. I'm going to do, and suddenly I've been doing it for 5 minutes and then I start emailing galleries. That would feel a little bit naughty. Do you know what I mean? But at least this is still within my kind of the wider boundary. So it felt a little bit less of a really, really brave thing to do.
Scary. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true. They say no is the worst thing that can happen. Maybe they will ghost you. They won't get back to you. That's the worst
Yeah.
that can happen. It's
That's it. You know, and
when you
that's
think about
okay.
it
Yeah.
when you think about it in those terms, it's far less scary. And I always try to put the gender perspective on it. And I
Mm.
feel like there are so many men outside, very, very unqualified for their jobs they're doing, but they're insistent and they present
Yeah.
themselves. And
Yeah.
I think as women and a lot of other marginalized identities, we have a lot more of this fear barrier and just don't do it for ourselves. And when
Yeah.
I talk to industry people, they're all like, you know how many emails we get with demos that are very, very amateur, and why not just try it? They have seen it all already. You're probably
That's
not.
it. Exactly. Well, this is it. I always remember when I was having cello lessons back at university, my cello teacher said to me one thing that has stuck with me for ever since. And she said, there is always someone better and worse than you. Because I was stressing out about, I don't know what. And just the idea that, you know, you're going to go do your thing. There'll always be someone better than you. That's okay. But
Yeah.
you're always going to be better than someone else as well. So just go do your thing and stop worrying about anybody else. And like you
Yeah.
say, worst case scenario, you're not going to get a reply to that email or they might not get back to you, you
Yeah.
know, but you are a musician. You know, I know my subject. I know
Mhm.
how to perform. I know what to do when I get on a stage. That environment is a second home to me. It always has
Mhm.
been. It's never felt uncomfortable. So I know that there's enough intuition and there's enough experience in that environment that
Yeah.
live playing has never felt scary. I mean, the first gig was nervous, but as I say, I was mainly worried about forgetting
Mhm.
words and was anyone going to be in the room? You know, I don't doubt for a second my ability to just get up and sing the songs and do the stuff. That's not
Mhm.
ever been a stressful thing. And it's just experience, you know, it's just like if
Yeah.
you've driven for 20 years, then driving to the supermarket's no biggie. It's you just do it, don't you? You know, and it's the
Yes.
same. And I think people find it strange to comprehend that because it's, for a lot of people, it's an environment they see from one side only. They see it from the
Mhm.
crowd and they see you on the stage physically, a bit higher up with the lights and all of the stuff. And they think, oh, that must be so scary, I
Mhm.
guess, maybe to do this, you know, to kind of reveal yourself in front of all of these people. I don't know. It's an interesting thing, but it's always felt very, very comfortable even as somebody who is quite self-conscious, well, very self-conscious and can be pretty shy for some reason or other, and I can't explain why, it feels comfortable and it feels like home really up there. It's an odd juxtaposition, but I'm not going to argue about it. And I think honestly, it's just having that experience, even though it's come from a classical place, you know what to do if stuff goes wrong. You know,
Right.
it's simple as that. You know what to do if stuff goes wrong. You know how to handle yourself in those environments because you've done it 100 times. You just weren't plugged into an amplifier. It's the only difference.
Right. I think your metaphor was pretty good. It's like driving. It's like riding a bike. It's the
Yeah,
muscle memory.
absolutely.
I think we just get overwhelmed by the feelings that arise, and maybe the anxiety. But I have had the pleasure of seeing you live at a festival, at Tuska Festival,
Yes, I love that
and
festival. It was a lot of fun.
that was full of you created this atmosphere that was full of vulnerability and
Mhm.
emotion, and it was absolutely obvious that your performance that you're not scared to do that, that you are really
No,
you're very much facilitating this safe space for emotions for the audience so that we can feel it with you and feel your story.
I am so glad that you said it in that way because that's exactly how it feels to me. And I'm so very, very grateful to have been permitted to create this space for people. You know, the audience are the people who have let that happen, not me. I write these songs and I really hope above anything else that they will let people feel something. You know, it's going to be a different something for everybody because people's experiences are different. You know, their past is always going to be different to mine, but hopefully the songs are written in a way that is just general enough that people can relate to it and project their experiences into these songs and find some common ground with me. And that together we explore something and we deal with something and we feel something. And, you know, the gigs have been ever since the beginning, really, but more so kind of as people, I think, learn that it is that space that people can just come and just leave everything else at the door and just come and feel whatever it is they need to feel for that hour or whatever. As
Mhm.
people learn that that's what these gigs do. I mean, obviously there are some people who just come and rock out and go home, and that is fine as well, you know.
Yeah.
But it is really wonderful to come and just feel stuff collectively for a bit, you know, and I try and make the environment as intimate and otherworldly as possible
Yes.
within the restraints of a music venue and, you know, the limited production that we have and all of that stuff. But it is about the vibe and it's about that soft restraint sometimes that just allows people to focus a little bit on how they feel. And it's really lovely that that's something that people do at shows, you know, and I'm very, very grateful to not have a passive audience
Mhm.
because I don't want to kind of walk out and just see a bunch of people just staring with their arms crossed, just being, you know, I
Yeah.
don't want that. That's no fun for anybody. So having an audience that kind of react to what you're doing is really special.
That's how I remember it. It was very much stepping into a different dimension during the festival, and just being able to also have a deep dive into the darkness of our own existence, kind of, which sounds sadder than it was.
Absolutely.
It was
No,
it
but
was really nice.
you know what? I think certainly I feel as kind of just life progresses and you know, information like Instagram, social media, the news, all of this stuff's just getting louder and louder and louder and more kind of in your face and busy and it's massive fucking sensory overload half the time.
Mhm.
There's just too much stuff. But I think that what people do is use it as a way to avoid feeling stuff. Do you know what I mean? Just use it
Yeah.
as a way to put the blinkers on, ignore how we feel, ignore how our actions affect anybody else, ignore how we're affected by other people. Just ignore, 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 go to work, eat, sleep, go to work, eat. It's like, no, no, no,
Mm.
no, no. If coming and being in a dark, smoky space with me for an hour allows you to sit with yourself just for a little bit and that's beneficial for you, please do it because it is a bad idea to keep ignoring this stuff. If you let yourself feel things, you let yourself heal, you let yourself fix stuff, you let yourself improve things, it's only going to be good. But it's just about allowing yourself to do it in the first place. And I'm so very, very grateful that people come to these shows and do exactly that rather than just ignore themselves. It's an interesting thing, but
Yeah.
it's a good thing, I think.
Yes, it sounds so therapeutic the way you put it that
It
I am
is.
very much looking forward to see you live again. Luckily, I
Please.
will in a few weeks only. You will come back to Finland to play Ankara
Yes.
Festival in the
I
beginning of June.
that is the day after my album's out. So I'm a bit
Yes.
nervous. I'm a bit
Ooh, big
nervous about
release
that one.
party.
Oh, well, there's definitely going to be new things in the set. So it's going to be a fun summer. I'm looking forward to playing new songs. My new album is called Solstice and it's going to be out on the 5th of June, the day before Ankara. I'm really proud of the songs that are on there. The song Poison, which came out last week, is the fourth single that's come from that album. And I'm really proud of everything that's on it. I know it's taken a while, not through anything bad, just logistics and changes of record label and just not having a deadline really meant that the whole thing's taken a little extra time, but I'm really, really proud of it. And I think it's interesting. It's been a really fun way of exploring a few new kind of styles and things for me as well. So I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope that you enjoy it.
Yes. And with you, we have one more woman on stage, and
Always.
I'm always very adamant about having more and more women in metal
Yes,
all over the
absolutely.
lineups. I would
More the merrier. Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
No
I hope
worries, Kiki.
you
Thank
have
you.
a wonderful rest of your evening. And to
Thank
everyone
you.
out there, stay tuned. Don't forget to subscribe to the Bleeding Metal podcast wherever you listen and here on YouTube. I'll see you next time.